Hey, what's up guys? So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create and use classes in Godot. Now, I do have this example project set up, and in here I can use this axe to chop down trees, and once their health reaches 0, then they will be deleted. But I will be showing you how this works and kind of how I'm utilizing classes in this example. But if you have no clue what classes are, first I'm going to show you how to create your own class and the syntax for that. So in Godot, you can create a new class as a script. I'm going to do this by right-clicking in my scripts folder and saying new script, and then I'm going to call it my_class, and we're going to inherit from node 2D. Now, if I open up this script, which is called my class, you can see that we are extending from node 2D, and this means that we are inheriting all of the properties contained inside of the node 2D object. Now, we can further extend this by saying class name, and we're going to call this my class. And this is how you would create your own class in Godot. So I'm going to add some new properties to my class. We're going to make one which is an export variable, and we're going to call it health, and I'll set it to 100. And then maybe we make another export variable, and this could be called object name, or let's set it to just of type string. And now in any of our scenes, let's say we make a new scene here, we can add a new child node, and you can see that if we search for my class, we have this new node added to Godot. And this is essentially just a class defined by the script that we created, which is extending node 2D. And if we add this as a child of our node 2D, we can go into the inspector panel, and you can see that our health and object name are two properties attached to this class object that we can manipulate. Now, classes are very useful for creating logic that needs to be shared between different instances of other objects. And classes are commonly used for things like enemies. So let's say you have a game with hundreds of different types of enemies, but they all have the same method, which would be to take damage. Now, you wouldn't want to make a separate script for each enemy and then copy the same take damage function into each script, but instead you'd want to make a parent class which would be called enemy, and maybe this would inherit from the character body class which is built into Godot, and this way you could call take damage on any enemy, and since they would all inherit from your parent class, they would all have the method take damage, and you wouldn't need to copy any functionality between all of the enemies. So in the example I've created, we have a class called choppable tree, and this essentially contains a health, a reference to a progress bar, and a reference to a hurt box. Now the progress bar just displays the amount of health left, and we are basically setting this with a setter function here. The hurt box is just an instance to a scene which I've created, and I'll show you that later, but it essentially takes inputs from a hitbox node, and then we'll take the damage value from that, and in this case apply it to our take damage function inside of our choppable tree. Now here you can see we're reducing our health by the damage taken, and then if it is smaller than 1, we're going to delete this object. But basically all of this logic is going to be contained inside of our choppable tree class, meaning that if we inherit from our choppable tree class, we're going to have all of this functionality right off the bat without having to copy anything over to our new trees. So in this case, I have a maple tree scene, and I also have a birch tree scene, and these are both inheriting from our choppable tree class, which you can see by opening their scripts up. Now, since I've exported the health, I've also set the health of the birch tree to 25, and I've set the health of the maple tree to 10. And we're going to define this a bit more in depth later on, but for right now I just want to show you how easy it is to create a new tree. So I'm going to make a new scene here. We're going to select other node, and I'm going to search for choppable tree. And since I've defined this as a class, we can just add it right into our scene tree, and I'm going to name it dead tree. Now I can save this in my scenes folder, and then you can see that my properties require me to set the health, which I'm going to do 5, and then the progress bar, which is the health bar, also the hurt box. And I don't actually have these nodes in here yet. Now you could dynamically add these nodes through code, but I think it makes more sense for the hurt box especially to actually have it different for each tree, because in a real game maybe you want to have different collision shapes for different objects. Even though they're the same class, they can also have their own unique parameters. So in this case, I'm going to copy all of the nodes from my birch tree scene, and I'm just going to reuse them in my dead tree scene because we want to have basically the same setup here. Now for the sprites, obviously I'll replace this with my dead tree texture. And then the health bar, I'm just going to move this up a bit. And for the collision shape, again, you would be able to change this and it would still retain its size apart from the other tree classes, since this is uniquely saved in its own scene. So just for example, I'm going to set this a bit smaller here. Now the last thing is to actually assign these references to my tree class. So I'm going to say the progress bar is my progress bar object, and the hurt box is my hurt box object. Save this, and now I can create a new dead tree instance inside of my game. Now I'm going to go ahead and run this to test the functionality out. You can see if I chop down a maple tree, it takes 2 hits. If I chop down a birch tree, it takes 5 hits. And then the dead tree should take 1 hit. And even though they all have the same functionality, they can have different images and different health values and etc. Anyways, that's going to do it for this quick tutorial. Now, there are different ways to use classes, like using custom resources, but I think that is good for another video. I have created a tutorial on using custom resources in the past, and I'm going to link that in the card in the top right now. But if you'd like to see a tutorial that goes more in depth on how to make a custom resource system for this project, then feel free to let me know in the comments. But essentially what that would do is, inside of our trees, you can see that we have the health, and maybe we'd want to set up a health component as a custom resource, and this class could contain things like the setting health and the taking damage method, all inside of that one health component class. And then we could instance this in other things that aren't just trees, like let's say we had enemies in our game, or even the player. You would be able to attach a health component, and then this would be used to change the health more dynamically across classes. But I figured that didn't really apply as much to this inheritance tutorial. But if you'd like to see that, again, let me know in the comments. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you learned anything new or want to see more videos like this, you can leave a like and consider subscribing, as it helps the channel out a ton. Also, if you need any help, feel free to leave a comment or join the Discord server, and I'll try to help you out as quickly as possible. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.